it isn't just that God is the creator of creation that led to the existence of this universe, and by happenstance it does this thing that we call music. To me, he is the architect of the music that we hear. So when we're working on, an instrument tuner or something that changes, adds a reverb effect or delay to a signal, we're interacting with him. In the same way that we look out the window and we see the leaves moving, all of those things are signals. It's proof that God invented music.
Welcome to the Contemplative Dad interview series. Today, I get the honor of sitting down with Patrick Krekelberg. We are here at his beautiful property in northern Minnesota. Before we get into it, I just want to do a little bit of an introduction so people get some context for who you are, what you do, kind of how you got to where you are.
Sure.
Can you share with me a little bit about your story of your journey to entrepreneurship, your relationship with God, how that all worked together and brought you to where you are now?
For me, it all relates back to being a little bit of a troublemaker. But even thinking back on those days and decisions that I made and inspirations that I was given, it was so clearly in this direction. Toward a good, solid marriage and being a father and figuring out how to make a living in a way that would be okay for everybody, but also being creative and excited about life. Didn't like arbitrary things that happen in offices and all of that. And I just felt like a lot of the project management kinds of things that had happened in the engineering field were mostly arbitrary and mostly just designed to control people and didn't have anything to do with producing things of value. So originally it was 25 years ago that I started my first business.
Wow.
I had met some people and they called themselves consultants, and I thought, I want to know more about that because it looks like this guy is just in his basement, soldering things together, and that seems really fun. I want to be in my basement doing that because that sounds like, my childhood. That sounds like what I did when I was 10. I mean, I have a thing that I feel like around the age of 10, you're kind of who you're going to be. And the thing that you picture yourself, you might not know the name of it or exactly what it would look like, but the thing that you're really excited about then is probably what you're going to be really excited about when you're 40 too and have kids and everything. When
we talk about this idea of making the leap into entrepreneurship, making the leap, it's not for everybody, obviously, but for those of us who it is for, that we got to get past that. That's that hurdle of the fear of the unknown. It's the story in Luke chapter 5 when Jesus comes into the boat with the disciples and they've been fishing all night and have caught nothing, and famously says to them, cast the nets to the other side of the boat into the deep water. He wants to call us into the area where he can provide the most. We got to be willing to go there because, that's where he's going to provide the most abundance,
right.
And not just money, but like abundance of faith, provision, blessing.
Generation after generation are born, created by God. We're these embodied souls, and we're not ants in an anthill. We're meant to share insights and create things and produce things. And so if you have that drive, that spark, being in a cubicle, being told exactly what steps to do that day, and then every 2 weeks, and then every month, and then you get the raise and you get the promotion, probably isn't the environment that's going to work for your type of personality.
So we're sitting here in your laboratory, your workshop, your studio, what have you. This is where you spend your time working. You're just kind of that 10-year-old kid in here inventing things and tinkering with things. Give us some specifics, like what products are you working on? What stuff have you developed in here?
Sure. What I do is product development, and I've always been most excited about product development. I think when you're a little kid and you picture the job that you don't know what it's called, but it is engineering. It's creating technology things. It's to make a product, like that's what you picture. You want to make a thing that somebody's going to hold in their hand or they're going to interact with, and it's going to make their life better in some way. It's going to make the world better in some way. And the way that applies for us in our company is that because I like software, it's the application that interacts with custom hardware all the way to the software that runs on the custom hardware that interacts with the application. So there are cases where we've done all the way down to the hardware and mechanical design and designing enclosures and introducing them to contract manufacturers and like that. So somebody comes and says, we have a product that we need designed, and then we will design the technology assets that make that thing. We've been deeply in the music industry since 2017, and I'm a musician. I love music. I love producing music. And so to even have a small contribution to that, to know that there are people out there that are using things that we've done to create something that is inspiring to people. To me, it's yet more evidence that God is faithful to me, even though I've gone against him in my life. that, you know, you kind of come around to, wow, you've always been there. You have always been setting things up in just such a way, all the way back to, you know, garage sale guitar amplifier, them tearing apart in my parents' basement when I was, 15 years old. God is introducing these situations and putting us in these places. And if we're connected, we're in a state of grace, we're paying attention, we're tuned in, then we're more apt to take advantage of those opportunities, make the best of them, glorify Him by working hard, putting in the work, learning. But even when we're not, He still does it for us anyway sometimes.
Yeah. A lot of musicians who started out in music and got married, like yourself, like myself, I started out in music in college. And although it wasn't a viable career path for me at the time, I pivoted to something else that wasn't maybe directly being a musician, making music. But I think that's like one of the full circle things with everything you're doing is the technology advances are creating more opportunities to contribute to things like music or film, creating content, whatever. That is one of the blessings, I think, of this, the advances that we're making. Some good, some, obviously there's always humanity. There's the spiritual, battle going on.
It isn't just that God invented, God is the creator of creation that led to the existence of this universe. And by happenstance, it does this thing that we call music. No. To me, He is the architect of the music that we hear, the fact that exists. And so when we're working on, an instrument tuner or something that changes, adds a reverb effect or delay to a signal or anything like that, we're interacting with Him to such a degree that, in the same way that we look out the window and we see the leaves moving, or you're driving on a bumpy road, like the road that you drove on to get here, and your car suspension is kind of bouncing up and down. All of those things are signals, and they're all analogous to each other in the same way that there's a pressure wave that's going to your eardrums that your brain is processing to make it into audio. And then when you think about all the mathematical relationships between those signals, things that we call harmonics. So if you're playing a guitar that you call a clean guitar, it has a certain sound, and then you do a thing that people call distortion, it gives that like rock sound to it. You're adding those harmonic signals, you're adding other signals that have a mathematical relationship with the original note or set of notes or chord or whichever that sounds interesting to us. Why does it sound interesting?
Right.
Why do those relationships make sense? It's because it's all part and parcel of the universe, in the same way that you can look at a star and based upon the light or the red shift, you can do calculations about how far away it is or where it's moving or things like that. All these things are signals.
I think that's a good pivot into what you're doing with the land here. It's not just about finding the right job. It's not just about the dream job. I think for guys like you and me, it's about building a life that's integrated. It's the holistic lifestyle. What brought you here? What sparked that part of your journey as far as the things you're doing here with the land?
It was about 2015 or so. I'd been independent for a few years, and the realization came to us, well, we could be anywhere. We could be somewhere that we really love. That's the whole thing about being self-employed. You can look at it one of two ways. You either have no vacation ever, or you have infinite vacation. If you can figure out a way to be productive, you can be productive anywhere. And even when I had a job, it was kind of that just when the telecommuting thing was starting, and I would just be somewhere beautiful, amazing, looking out at something, the ocean or Lake Superior, and responding to emails, still being productive.
Isn't that a little more natural to our humanity? Don't you think? I mean, it's different for everybody, right? But like, I just got to think like even seasonally, like there's gonna be seasons where you're working harder, or like
that's a good way to put it.
Take a break. It's like there's a natural ebb and flow. Obviously, you got to be able to build that into your life and hold yourself accountable. But it's a
cultural thing too. Like when I worked at Honeywell, we would interact with Airbus people that they just were gone for a month because in France they take a month off. I have friends in Sweden. They're off right now because it's July. It's just understood. If you go and walk around Stockholm, that it's altruistic because everybody else is gone.
So it's an American thing.
They take 5 weeks off.
The gas pedal's down. 40 hours a week. 365.
Right. So I think for some people it really fits with them to be in an office and have manager give you an exact bulleted list of what to do. And I think there's merit in that too. It's a different type of person than I am. The great thing about that type of person is they go home and that stays there. And that there's absolutely merit and value in
Yes.
that. That's just not me.
Right.
So whether I was at the office or here, I go in for lunch and it's still, the resonance is still there, the things are still going on. Yeah. And so to me, I knew the type of person I was. I knew what, and that was, a time when kind of the zeitgeist was going toward, hey, Dick Proenneke and cabins on lakes. And I'm like, well, I like cabins. I like that thing. Like as a Minnesotan, I like being in the woods. Right. What if we could live in the woods? What if we could do this homestead thing? Yeah. What if we could do that? Like a lot of people, I think there are a lot of people thinking that. Right. And so we would just pray every night like a little kid. Our evening prayer was, God, please put us in a situation where we're surrounded by your creation. That was our simple prayer. And there was no more sophistication to it, because we just thought he'll figure it out. Or if the answer is no, he'll say, well, it's this different plan. Yep. He'll make it clear enough because we're making it clear to him, this is what we feel driven by and called to. And then we would just kind of look around and see, like, what could we afford? Yeah. And thinking, like, there are a lot of different ways you look at that. Do you pick raw land and do you develop it? Do you find the perfect place and try to afford it? Or do you find something in the middle? And so we found a place that was workable, that was in an area that we thought was interesting. We just drove up on the road and turned the car off, got out of the car, and just stood there on the road, and there was no sound. And I just thought, and I took a picture of that, of us, just my wife and I there, and it was just profound to me. Think of it, looking back on it, it's a little silly to think back, but I think it was. I think it was God speaking to us, saying, this will be okay, like things will be okay in this situation. And you'll have a lot to learn, but that this is where you can get what you're envisioning. Yeah. Yep. So that was the road right out there.
That was the answered prayer. Put us in your creation.
This was a potato farm 100 years ago, and so we have the old documents from the original homesteader here that cleared the land, and he had 2 draft horses, and we have a copy of the title for his Model T that he drove on here. The cool thing about being in the woods is sometimes the other plants are interesting. Like this is dogbane. This is essentially what somebody would consider a weed. The bark fiber in this plant, this can be used to make cordage. So you can make fishing nets or even fishing line baskets. Everything in God's creation has some kind of purpose. It all exists for some reason. This is kind of like the orchard that will feed the next generation. We will continue pushing this way, eventually build kind of a sacred space, like a secret garden back there that you kind of led back into in memorial and in tribute of people that we've lost in our family, our parents, and like that.
God is just starting to teach me this, just about his desire to know what we want. Like that's even such a funny thing for me to
better than we
say. Yeah, better than we do, but like that he actually desires it. This freedom to, be like a little kid and say, hey, here's the desire of my heart that you've put here. What do you want to do with this? Do what you will with it.
You're not envisioning a Ferrari. You're envisioning a life that resonates more with what you were made for, right? Somebody has to write the great novels. Somebody has to make films. Somebody has to do those things. Write the next amazing song that's going to inspire millions of people. And so if you're called to create something, just like what we tell the kid, we have 2 older kids that are like just on the precipice of adulthood, and they don't know precisely exactly what the thing is. And I think it's kind of a lie to tell kids that at 17 you should know this is your major and then you're going to go into this and that. But as long as you're in a state of grace and you're kind of tuned in and you're paying attention, if you have a vague idea of like, what are my gifts? What are my talents? That's enough of a hint to take you into what that's going to mean in terms of decision making. So for us, the way that we kind of helped to work our way out of, is this just a selfish thing? First of all, the fact that we weren't expecting to find the perfect thing. And I think that even if it existed, we probably wouldn't have been able to afford it anyway. It was more a thing of, God, I know that this will be difficult, but I have a feeling that the life I'm living now is too easy. And we turn the faucet on and it just comes magically, and we plug things in, it just comes through magically. And all of the things of living in the city, I think, again, there's great merit, and for some people that is exactly where they should be because they're paying attention to other things. Their contributions are elsewhere. For me, thinking back to even just getting a slice of what it feels to be like a pioneer on land, to just kind of carve out your life. You're developing your own tiny little municipality. You're providing the water. You handle where things go down the drain. to a degree. You're providing the power and the buildings and maintaining everything, and no one really is coming to save you, as it were.
Yeah.
And but that was exciting to us.
Right.
We thought, well, I want to see what that feels like.
Yeah.
We know that it might not always be good, and it hasn't been. It's actually been quite challenging at times.
Yeah.
But we want to feel that feels alive.
Yes.
You know, in the same way that if you take that too far, you do things that are kind of self-destructive, especially like we do as young people, just to feel alive. Like things are too easy. I feel like everything is just happening.
Yeah.
How do I contribute? How do I affect that?
Yeah.
And here you have to.
All right. So for anybody that's, at a place maybe in their career or their life where they have this vision for what things could be, they have this ideal, but there's fear, there's uncertainty. What's some of the best advice you could give, or just tangible takeaways?
Sure. Think about what your talents are, and that's a strong hint at where you'd be not only most productive, but also feel like you're adding value, bringing something into the world that's good. And that's where you'll feel most fulfilled also, even if it is just a job, because there are cases where, even in my work, where it is just a thing to do, and that's fine too. It doesn't always need to be this earth-shattering thing. Be okay with taking steps toward that. Like for us, one of the steps that we didn't know was a step toward this was homeschooling. And we knew that, then we're kind of able to make our own schedule. So there are probably things in the future that we could do with that,
right,
whether it be wanting to travel or take a long weekend or whatever. So that was the first step for us, was homeschooling. And then unraveling health insurance was another thing, where if I didn't have to worry all the time about that, when you're working for a small company and you have a high deductible insurance plan, that's really not insurance anyway. Like anything we would have done when I worked for a small company, we would have had to pretty much pay out of pocket anyway.
Right.
So even in that case, having a healthcare sharing ministry makes more sense. You're paying less out of pocket for things that you're going to have to pay for on your own anyway.
It's true. Yeah.
So taking little steps like that, where it's like, okay, I'm just kind of putting the blocks in place, just to give myself options. The other really important thing that is impactful for me is, we always talk about, if all of this fell apart, if we lost all of this, what would we do? And we live in a camper for months at a time. And because we do that, we know that we would be okay doing that all the time. If we had to do that, that would actually be kind of exciting. If we had no money, everything falls apart, the industry changes, opportunity vaporizes, what would we do? And not just having a plan for that, but having a plan that you're kind of excited about. Hey,
sure.
What if that were to happen? Like how would we live, and would we really honestly be okay with that? So then there's the saying, fake it till you make it. And that's a very secular mindset of just go out there and pretend. That's kind of disingenuous, because if you don't have the ability, if you don't have the innate talent to develop through skill and practice, you're not going to be able to do it. So the first thing you have to be able to do is discern what your capabilities are. Hey, if I can generally play a guitar, someday I could probably be a great composer. Well, develop the skill to match with the talent that you have from God, and see where that leads. So you can't fake, but there's also kind of a situation in the world where, in a way, kind of everybody's faking it. Everybody's just doing their best. Almost everybody that's living at a high level, that's really deeply interfacing with the universe and society and trying to have an impact on other people, is feeling like an imposter at least half the time. Like, wow, that didn't work out. I'm the worst. There's no way I could possibly be that. Well, but look at the evidence. Look at the evidence says otherwise. The evidence says that, you're actually, things are pretty good, and you're getting traction. So just keep following up on that. So for me, the more focused on my Creator, more focused on what I was made to be aspect of that mindset of fake it until you make it, is embrace the talents that you have and put yourself in that situation, and trust the fact that if you're talking to somebody you really look up to, they're probably feeling that way too, and they're just trying to keep up in whatever situation that they're in. We're all kind of doing that. Be at peace with that. Be at peace with, you're never going to get to the point where I really know all the things. I'm really an expert. I've even worked in cases where a courtroom needs a expert witness about some electronics thing or something like that. Like, well, that's not me. I'm not an expert, but like, well, who else? If it's not me, then who is it?
I'll pretend to be the expert.
Yeah, like I can be an expert enough to do that. And what's the difference between me and somebody else? Like I have capabilities and skills and knowledge and experience. If I'm called upon to share that, then I should do that.
Yeah.
You know, put in the work. You know, you can't slough off. You can't get into the situation and say, well, the things didn't work out yet. Like, why isn't it working out? Like, well, did you put in the work? Did you practice?
Yeah.
You know, just like with a musical instrument. As long as you're doing that, then be okay with sometimes feeling like an imposter.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Patrick. This conversation has been super entertaining, inspiring. Is there anywhere that people can go to learn more? Any plugs you want to make for your business or what you're doing?
Sure. So Krekeltronics.com is the website. Very simple. It's just an online brochure essentially, but that's the home. The name was meant to be like an inside joke originally.
It's funny how that works.
But then it just kept that name, so it just kind of has that, and it remains that. So yeah, Krekeltronics.com, and then also just Patrick Krekelberg on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Like I said, love the LinkedIn posts.
Thank you.
I think a super underrated LinkedIn page. So follow him if you have not yet. So thank you for joining us for this conversation. Really enjoyed my time here with Patrick. I hope this was inspiring, educational for you as well. We will see you again next time on the Contemplative Dad interview series. Bye-bye.